Catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening with GB News and the top story tonight. The Prime Minister says it's now up to the House of Lords to do the right thing and pass his Rwanda bill. Officials at Heathrow Airport this afternoon met the Prime Minister, he said, to highlight the importance of border security. Last night, the Rwanda bill did pass through the House of Commons, unamended as well, with a majority of 44 voting for it and only 11 Tory MPs rebelling against it. Mr Sunak says peers must now support the legislation as a matter of urgent national priority. Well, the Prime Minister's plan to stop the boats comes as the Home Office confirms 358 people were intercepted trying to cross the English Channel yesterday in 8 small boats. That means 621 people have arrived in the UK in the last 5 days, despite the poor weather in the last 2 weeks. Train tickets are twice as expensive when bought from platform ticket machines than those booked online. The consumer group, which says same-day tickets are particularly high in cost, and in their research, best value fares were either unavailable or hidden among too many options. For example, a journey from Northampton to Cardiff was found to cost £107 from a ticket machine, but was only £43 if bought online. 2 in 5 railway stations don't have ticket offices now, so when passengers don't have access to tickets online, the only option is a platform ticket machine. Now, thousands of jobs are at risk in South Wales as Tata Steel has decided to push ahead with plans to close both blast furnaces at Port Talbot. The decision comes despite unions today putting forward proposals aimed at saving the jobs. Tata then rejected that. The redundancies, which must be completed by March next year, will see 3/4 of the 4,000 staff on site at risk of losing their jobs. Unions will now consult members, with industrial action not being ruled out. Prince William visited Kate in hospital today. She's recovering from planned abdominal surgery there. He was seen driving out of the private London clinic this afternoon with his close protection team alongside him. The Princess of Wales said to be doing well after her operation on Tuesday, but it is expected she'll stay in hospital for the next 10 to 14 days. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla said His Majesty is fine and looking forward to getting back to work as he awaits treatment for an enlarged prostate. King Charles says he's keen to go public with his rather private condition to encourage other men to make sure they get themselves checked out. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and now on your smart speaker. This is Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. My name's Andrew Doyle. Joining me tonight are two comedians, podcasters, YouTubers, commentators, etc. Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. Well, you like to moonlight, don't you? You've got a lot of strings to your bow, Nick.
Multi-talented, I'm sorry. What can I do?
A lot of thumbs and pies.
Yeah.
Thumbs and pies?
Thumbs and pies, that's a saying.
That is a saying.
Fingers in this country.
Well,
is it just a thumb in Scotland?
Yeah, thumb makes it sound a bit sordid for some reason.
Yeah, some of it is a bit sordid.
Yeah.
Your
Well,
fans.
Stop thumbing pies, Nick. We're going to have a look at the front covers for Friday's newspapers before we crack on. The Daily Mail is leading with "Don't defy will of the people. Rishi warns Lords." The front cover of the Telegraph has "NATO warns of war with Russia in the next 20 years." The Guardian, Netanyahu, "We will not accept a Palestinian state after Gaza war." The Times is running with "Teachers locked in for their own safety." An incredible story. We'll get to that in a moment. And the iNews has "Government orders inquiry into second Post Office IT scandals" claims. And the Daily Star, "Thou shalt have rumpy pumpy." That's a message from the Pope, apparently. Those were your front pages. So we're going to kick off our in-depth look at the front covers with the Daily Mail. Leo, what are they leading with on Friday?
So they lead with "Don't defy will of the people, Rishi warns Lords." So this is his Rwanda bill, which passed surprisingly confidently. Only 11 Tories voted to crash the law altogether. There were worries that as many as 60 Tories could vote against it.
They didn't have the bottle. Is that right?
They didn't have the bottle. Something else that floats. But when the bill got to the House of Lords, rebellious peers shouted shame. So they obviously don't want this bill to pass, and they've shown their true colours. But Rishi has made the point. Look, the British public are kind of getting a bit sick. The British public want this bill to pass. I think a way we could do it, pass another law that says we handcuff each dinghy man, each man who comes across in one of these boats, to a lord. And they have to go around with them all day.
Isn't the problem having an unelected body as part of your parliamentary system?
Yeah.
I would have thought that's part of it.
Yeah, but sometimes it works well and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, when they agree with you, Leo, that's when it works well. I'd say just maybe abolish people who aren't elected. What do you think?
You're one of these lefties. You want to abolish everything, Andrew. You want to abolish
everything. I don't want to abolish democracy and accountability, Nick.
OK. All right.
That's where I'm coming from.
Maybe you're not a lefty then. Look... Well, for one thing, they've obviously watched Game of Thrones and they're shouting shame at people. That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Creepy.
That annoyed me. But it was a bit strange. Rishi held this press conference to sort of vaguely threaten the House of Lords. And people couldn't really understand what he was getting at necessarily, because he said they better be careful and respect the will of the people. Some people were theorising, is he saying that he could potentially go into an election saying, who runs the country, and threaten vaguely to, abolish or severely reform the House of Lords? So he's just dropping that out there just in case.
You can't bully the Lords, though. I mean, this is the problem.
You famously can't bully the Lords.
Can't. And they're perfectly happy to stand up against Sunak. They're their own masters, aren't they?
Well, what they want there's a danger that they want to delay this, and so it can't go through before the next election. That's the other thing.
Obviously wouldn't go through because Labour would be in, and they want all the new voters.
But that's all the Lords can do, is ultimately delay. I mean, there's only so many times they can knock it back. So, he can just persist. And
the bill is a bit of a dud as it arrives. I mean, it didn't satisfy. 60 Tory MPs had real reservations about it. It doesn't satisfy the people who should be the most delighted about it. And the amendments didn't pass that would have toughened it up and made it sort of more workable as a piece of it.
They're still troublemaking by not passing it, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, you say Labour wouldn't get past this bill. They wouldn't be interested in this. But they have said that they want to sort out the small boats crisis, and they claim that they know how to do it. If not this, then what is their solution?
They've claimed they know how to do it. They haven't told us what that would be.
No, they haven't said.
If they got the answer, why don't they tell us? Why don't they let
Maybe
Rishi
it's
put
so
the answer in?
impressive and interesting. They want to save it like a big surprise, a fun thing, and they'll have a big glittery reveal. Thing. That'd be amazing.
People are getting sick of the boats crossings. I mean, 72% of Britons and 76% of Brexit supporters think that Rishi's Stop the Boat pledge is going badly. So somebody's got to fix it.
It's not even left and right, particularly. I think most people of either affiliation are feeling kind of the same at the moment. Anyway, we're going to move on to the front cover of the Telegraph. Nick has the details.
Yeah, this is NATO warns of war with Russia in the next 20 years. Fun story for anyone getting up at 5 a.m. watching this, facing their day. But, this is where we are. I mean, this comes from Admiral Rob Bauer, who is a Dutch admiral, chairman of NATO's military committee. And he's saying, look, we follow Sweden's example, brace for all potentialities. We can't rely on peace anymore. You know, he doesn't talk about Fukuyama, but we had that period of sort of end of history, didn't we? We felt we were all just chilling. I know some people say that's not what Fukuyama meant, but anyway, the point is we all felt like it was a nice time, end of the Cold War.
But don't you think,
up to about 9/11 or whatever.
When a senior official within NATO starts talking about Russia and how there's going to be a war, I mean, Russia have been going on for a long time now about NATO expansionism. Isn't this just kind of confirming all their fears and more likely, in fact, to put them on a footing for war?
Yeah, it's a good point. If you could see it like that, couldn't you? That's, some people say you're a Putin apologist if you say that, Andrew.
Do they?
NATO had never attacked Russia. NATO would have never attacked Russia. NATO still hasn't attacked Russia. Like, NATO countries have given weapons to Ukraine so it can defend itself. Like, there's no Russian territory being taken.
No, but there is a perception within Russia that NATO have been
there's a perception
expanding deliberately as a policy.
There's a perception within, you know, a few paranoid nationalists like Dugin and Strelkov and Putin
and Doyle.
The rest is the rest is nonsense. The real problem the West has is that military recruitment has been dropping, and they can't. No arms in the military, the Navy, the Marines can fill their ranks. This is in America and in Europe, and it's because we've had decades of sort of diversity and, you know, being told, you know, the only sort of outreach they do, the only advertising they do is for transgender people or whatever it is.
Saying you want a more masculine military.
Traditionally, the military has been quite masculine. And, you know, the Vikings were never like, oh my God, we're not diverse enough, guys.
What about the Amazons? They were pretty tough. There was a bunch of women, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if there's any in Britain, then yeah, if you want to sign up, I'm sure they'd have you. But I mean, this is part of the problem. It's an ideological problem. All the patriotism, the nationalism has been beaten out of the people in this country.
Can I add one thing? Aside from the alarmism, though, isn't this just the normal state? Like, it's kind of well known that Russia plans 50 years in advance for wars. They see war with the US as inevitable. They plan for every outcome: kinetic war, spying, cyber attack. So actually, the idea of being ready for war itself isn't that just normal? You know what I mean? Of course we have to be ready for potential war with Russia.
But why Sweden particularly? I mean, they have to go through Finland first, so there's a bit of a buffer.
So yeah, they took a big chunk of territory from Finland before, and Finland
they did
defended itself really well, like Ukraine is doing.
They're scared of Finland.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fair enough. We're going to move on to the front cover of Friday's Times. Leo, what is the headline here? So
this is teachers locked in for their own safety. This is locked in rooms at schools, in case you're wondering.
Well, like a safe room.
Sort of, yeah, like a safe room, like that Jodie Foster.
The Jodie Foster film, Panic Room.
Yeah, Panic Room. Yeah. So this is the new Ofsted, new head of Ofsted, who says the behaviour of pupils at some schools, he doesn't name them, is so bad that there are no-go areas and teachers lock themselves in classrooms for safety.
Do you believe this? This sounds incredible.
It sounds like he's hamming it up. He says, as leader of an academy trust, he had taken on broken schools where students were stopping staff and saying, this is a no-go corridor. It belongs to the children. You know, I don't know, real Lord of the Flies stuff. I don't know if they, you know, had paint smeared on their faces and just, you know, a loincloth on. But
maybe. I mean, we locked our geography teacher in the cupboard once.
Well, there we go. This is what he's talking about. It was you.
It was people like us. I mean, Nick, this is concerning, though. You know, I used to be a teacher. I never feared for my safety particularly. One kid squared up to me once, but I soon showed him who's boss.
Yeah, you got out of the profession and the room that you were locked in.
I did, yeah.
Look, I believe it, because this is where we are in the culture, isn't it? We've got this degenerate culture. We side with children, we side with criminals. Don't you think the leftist culture always sides with the kind of so-called oppressed?
We've had a conservative government for 13
but they're not real conservatives. We need the return of the patriarchy, the proper patriarchy, where a teacher told you to do something and you were so scared.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you where that does exist.
Michaela School,
which is not a patriarchy, it is a matriarchy.
I'll take that as a second choice.
Catherine Berblesing.
As long as someone gets caned, I'm all right.
Michaela Strachan is one person. She can't run every school.
Can't do everything.
yeah, she was good, though.
Can I just say that? But that is the point.
Catherine Berblesing.
Catherine Berblesing's school does have the kind of discipline that Nick is talking about. The kids love it. They do really well. The results are absolutely superb.
Do you get residual payments from them? Like, you're talking about them every night on here now. Do you get a kickback?
Because they're in the news. Whenever there's a story about something like this, obviously that is the paradigm that we need to be talking about.
Absolutely.
Why can't we just reintroduce? And this is not
discipline.
This is not a right-wing idea. Left-wing people have always been aware that you need to socialise children effectively. Why can't we have discipline in schools? Why can't we not have teachers hiding themselves in rooms because they're too terrified?
The left love authoritarianism. Look at Stalin.
Yeah, but as Nick says, we've had a succession of left-wing governments, including the current conservatives, and they call themselves conservatives. I mean, whoever, Margaret Thatcher must be spinning in her grave. But you know, they're never going to go for the Michaela Strachan school because they ban praying. They ban, and, you know,
remind me who Michaela Strachan was. She in Countdown?
It's fine to ban Christian praying, but they also ban Muslim praying, which is the best kind of praying according to Guardian readers.
Well, we need a Victorian here about carrying books on your head, standing really straight, caning,
going to India.
That.
Would you bring back corporal punishment?
Yes.
Serious question.
Yes.
You would?
Yeah.
Would you, Leo?
Because I'm not...
corporal is where you kill the children.
Not going to hit me, are they?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems a bit harsh.
No, capital is killing the children.
All right.
Corporal punishment is where you merely whack them with some instrument.
No, I'd go
with a ruler.
Yeah? Okay. I'm not so sure,
Simpler
Nick.
times.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
OK, let's move on to The Guardian. Nick, Friday's Guardian, what have they got on the front cover?
They've got Netanyahu, we will not accept a Palestinian state after Gaza war. So, basically, the bullet points are Netanyahu's told the White House that's not going to happen. No two-state solution. The US says we continue to seek a two-state solution. Lots of people think it's not realistic anymore. Lots of people say Palestine are the ones that rejected the two-state solution. But the word here is, you know, all territory west of the Jordan River will be under Israeli control, and that's how it's going. And because it's The Guardian, they attack Netanyahu repeatedly and say that he's sought to obstruct this Palestinian state throughout his career, and he's evil and bad.
We've been here before, though. I remember a conversation between Netanyahu and Obama, where Obama sort of mooted the idea of a two-state solution, and Netanyahu proceeded to lecture him at length about that, why that wasn't a possibility. However, Leo, is it not the case that Netanyahu is pretty much discredited now within Israel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not likely he's going to retain power for long anyway.
Yeah, he was on his way out anyway.
Yeah.
But now, you know, this whole thing hasn't made him more popular.
No.
With Israelis, and you know, he's touting occupation, but that's very difficult because, you know, then you're losing Israeli lives all the time. It's you know, the conflict.
But if you don't, I mean, they withdrew from Gaza in 2005, 2006, and the result was further terrorist attacks. So it's not as though withdrawing from these territories is actually helping. I mean, his argument is that that's actually a security risk, as has been proven by the October 7th pogrom.
I mean, I don't know if there's a way of just helping to create a government in Gaza that doesn't hate Israel as much. Maybe they just, you know, it's more of a sort of rivalry like Scotland and England?
I don't know how you would do that, Leo. Part of the problem with the government in Gaza is they shot the opponents as well.
Right.
So there's fighting within as well. It seems like a bit of a mess. But you're the one to solve it, I think.
Well, what if we sent in Michaela Strachan?
Michaela Strachan, clearly, I mean, you're obsessed with her. I'm still trying to picture who she is quite. Is it Big Breakfast? Was she on that?
No.
Really wild show.
Really wild show.
A really wild show. OK, well, I wouldn't watch something. It sounds appalling to me, that sort of show. It sounds out of control.
You're scared of animals.
Well, is it an animal show?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely not going near it. All right, those are the front pages all tied up, and now we've worked out who Michaela Strachan is, we can go to the break. But coming up, we've got why the Tories are toast, Humza Yousaf playing political chess, and how the Home Office lost 6,000 asylum seekers. See you in a moment.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock Monday to Thursday on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. With me, Andrew Doyle. I'm still here with the great thinkers, Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. Major philosophers of our time is the way I like to think of them. The Independent now, and more evidence to show the Tories could lose the next election, Nick. How about that?
Firstly, I don't like your joke there because it implies I'm not a deep thinker, so I'm offended
I was being sincere.
OK.
You decided to read it as a sardonic comment.
Fine. OK, good. We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
So this is devastating poll result shows only 10% of voters under 50 would support Conservatives at next election.
Ouch.
So this comes after the devastating poll from Lord Frost and the Conservative Britain Alliance, which was devastating enough. This is a new devastating poll. So a lot of devastating polls. And it's a YouGov survey, more than 2,000 adults. Only 20% said they would vote for the Tories, while fewer than half of those who backed the Tories in 2019 intend to support them again. So that's pretty key.
This is
as well.
Every poll that you see about the Conservative Party, it's not good news for them.
It's not great. And I watched Farage earlier, and he was asking Jacob Rees-Mogg, this must be unprecedented for the Tories. This must be the worst it's ever been. And Mogg's like, no, not at all. Between 1846 and 1874,
well, there we go.
It was worse. There was a split. There was the split over the Corn Laws and all this sort of stuff.
Well, he's got a point. But listen, I thought that people became more right-wing as they got older. This poll would suggest that even people under 50, like none
Maybe
of
that's
them.
why they don't like the Tories, because they're becoming right-wing. Am I right? Because they're left-wing, as we discussed earlier. You know, it's a big problem. And there was another thing, that 54% trust Farage, this was another poll, versus 35% trust Rishi Sunak. So they're not doing very well. They were in the right sort of place with Boris. They were doing pretty well. You know, they decided to self-destruct for unknown reasons, and now this is where they are.
Should they not have got rid of Liz Truss?
Well, I don't know. It was sort of, that was part of it. The self-destruction was already underway then, wasn't it? Because they got rid of Boris, who basically could have won again. The 2019 people liked him. He had broadly the right idea, vaguely patriotic.
Is that your view, Leo, or do you think...
Yeah, I think Boris would be doing a lot better in the polls at the moment. I'm not sure that Boris is actually a better Prime Minister. He wasn't really a details man.
Right.
And he did sort of fold when he should have stuck to his instincts, like with COVID, and we should have had a sweet Swedish-style light lockdown. You know, he folded and let them push him around.
Yeah.
But there's a sort of underlying assumption here that, you know, only 10% of voters under 50 would vote Conservative, so the rest, 90%, must be left-wing or voting for Labour, and I don't think that's true at all.
Okay.
I think a lot would be voting for, you know, crazy parties like the Green Party, and a lot are actually right-wing and don't have a party to vote for.
Well, that's the problem.
Plus,
I mean, you can't hold a majority in Parliament with only 10% of your voters behind you. And also, the Conservatives, isn't it concerning that it's Tory voters not voting Tory? I mean, that's the major problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Although, I mean, older people do still tend to vote Tory.
That's habit, though.
And they're the ones who, you know, they get out the actual vote. Young people, you know, make a lot of noise online, but don't actually...
So, Nick,
can't be bothered walking to the polling station.
What can they do?
I'm not sure. I mean, I just wanted to add that Reform are up to 12% as well. So there is that. So people will be voting Reform. What can they do? They can't do much now because Rishi left it too late. I think his last-ditch thing, I've said before, would have been to bring in Dominic Cummings and really try and do something radical, which he's missed out on that. Sometimes Rishi talks as if he's not too worried about losing, and he just talks about, we have to think about the long term and do these careful economic things, as if he's just thinking, well, the civil service will cover this and it doesn't matter if it's me or Starmer. That's not, I'm not saying he is doing that, it's just how it sounds.
Yeah.
It sounds like someone who doesn't realise he's heading towards a cliff or doesn't know what to do.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, he's obviously over.
Yeah,
he's not behaving as though he
Lord Frost
does.
spoke about complacency complacency in his recent article. He said, strangely enough, the main tone is one of complacency. It's like, why don't they realise what's happening or don't care, or can they just not stop it?
We need a Javier Milei to come in.
Yes.
Is that right? Javier Milei? Or someone with a baseball bat or a chainsaw. What is it he's carrying these days? Some scary implement. Anyway, we're going to move on to Telegraph now. Humza Yousaf, Leo, your favourite subject, playing 4D chess. What's going on here?
So Humza Yousaf, who's the First Minister of Scotland, allegedly, although from his tweets you'd think he was the First Minister of Gaza, he has invited Erdogan, the Turkish president, to see him in Scotland, and he's denied that this invite is linked to Turkey helping his family flee Gaza. So he had quite a lot of members of his wife's family were stuck in Gaza. The thing is, her parents went over there. They've got other members that were over there. They were told not to go, but they still went. And so the Turkish president organised this sort of midnight flit from Gaza.
Yes.
Got them out of there. And what's interesting is, Humza criticises Israel. He's constantly hammering on his war crimes, and we need to stop the bombing in Gaza. This is horrific, and all the rest of it. But the Turkish president has been doing equally, if not nastier things.
Oh, the man's a tyrant.
To the Kurds. He's a dictator.
He's a dictator, absolutely. But I'm going to have to stop you there, Leo, because this article, apparently, Mr. Yousaf is saying he's pledging to raise human rights concerns. If Erdogan comes over, he's going to use the opportunity to challenge him in precisely the way that you think he should.
No, he's going to get a selfie, and he's going to pat him on the back, and he's going to try and suck up to him. And he says, so Humza said, why on earth would Scotland not seek to engage with a NATO ally, and of course with somebody we would seek to do business and trade with? So I guess they need somebody to replace the heroin import business now that Afghanistan's dropped out. That's the major business.
You're very cynical,
That's the major business in Scotland. It's certainly one that Humza's family seems to be involved in. And also, Scotland isn't a NATO partner of Scotland. Like, the UK is the NATO partner. We didn't devolve the military.
All right, but is it not the case that countries on the international stage that want to be taken seriously do invite... I'm talking about Scotland.
Yeah, no,
do invite leaders from other countries that are perhaps sometimes controversial. We've done it with Saudi Arabia, for instance. I would argue that the Saudi Arabian government or regime has done an awful lot, even more, I think, that we should be worried about.
We get an awful lot of money and oil from
it. So Nick, come on, it cannot be the case, can it, that he's just sort of inviting him over as a little thank you for helping his family? It would be too transparent and obvious.
We know, Andrew, the SNP are never corrupt. That's the first thing we know.
That's the first thing, exactly.
And maybe it's understandable. I'm not the biggest fan of Humza Yousaf, but if it was your family, maybe you would get involved with the leader of Turkey. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like a neighbourhood gangster. Like, hey, he's a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's helping out your family. You sort of turn a blind eye to all those things that he's done. What would you do? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think if I was First Minister of Scotland...
which could actually happen, weirdly.
Could happen one day. But if I was First Minister of Scotland, I might also look out for Scotland's interests and look out for maybe the 1,400 babies born with drug addiction.
I think he'll be very cynical. I think he will surprise you. He'll invite him over. He'll do like a cook report kind of thing. He'll be like, I've been wanting to get you on the ropes for years. Why have you done this, this and this?
The thing is, David Cameron's now been threatening them as a sort of in reprisals. It made me think, who do I dislike more, Cameron or Humza Yousaf? It's still Humza Yousaf, but it's quite close.
Yeah, it's a close one. OK, we're going to move on now to the Telegraph. 6,000 people going missing in the UK, and it's the Home Office's fault, Nick.
We've all lost stuff, Andrew. It's Home Office admits 6,000 failed asylum seekers are missing in UK. This is Michael Tomlinson, the Minister for Countering Illegal Immigration. I thought it would say counting for a minute. That would be handy. Just counting the migration.
They learned how to do that. It would be a start.
Yeah, look, there was this idea that 17 withdrawn asylum seekers had disappeared, and they said, no, we know where some of those are. There's a few thousand of those that we know about, but there's this 6,000, no one knows where they are. Quite disturbing. They seem to have disappeared into the underground economy.
What's that mean? Is it just
it's kind of like Demolition Man? They live on the ground and eat rat burgers and stuff, and it's a whole separate parallel economy. I don't know.
Is it just that they've literally lost the files? I mean, they can't have lost physically 6,000 people.
My favourite quote, comes from Sir Robert Choate, who's saying that this episode may affect public trust.
Yeah.
It may do, Leo.
Yeah, previously, they said they didn't know where 17,000 withdrawn asylum seekers. So sometimes people apply for asylum, they don't get it, and then it's not like you don't get it and you get put back wherever you came from. You just disappear. You just
on the ground,
like the end of Usual Suspects. Kaiser Soze walks off down the street.
We'll never see him again.
Movie references, Demolition Man,
and sometimes they get up to no good. Like Emad Swalmin, the Liverpool maternity hospital bomber, he'd been refused his asylum.
Yeah, but it's never good when someone goes missing. You've got no records of who they are or where they are.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, this is madness.
Especially when they come from, you know, medieval regimes that, you know, might ideologies that might hate us and want to destroy us.
I hate to sound sort of draconian, but we need vigilante squads to go around deporting people.
I think that's a very bad idea, Nick. I'm going to put the kibosh on that one straight away. We're going to end this section now with someone who's causing a storm in both the Red Sea and online. Leo, a handsome Houthi.
Yeah, so this is the hot Houthi Timothy Chalamet lookalike who says he's longing for martyrdom as 19-year-old pirate goes viral. He's warned US and UK they face their end, and he hates his comparison to the Willy Wonka star. I don't know if he's seen Willy Wonka. He might change that, but he's Rashid Al Haddad.
I think we've got some images, maybe.
He's a 19-year-old from Yemen. There he is, there in a lovely ball gown. I think that's Vera Wang.
But you can't really see him close up. I can't tell if he looks like Timothy Chalamet.
Well, it's just nice to see. They're a bit closer up. It's nice to see the Yemeni Houthi rebels embracing transgenders in the military as well. That is delightful headdress and long ball.
But he's angry at this being sexually objectified from the sound of things, because he's a man, isn't he? He's like he wants to be a warrior, and everyone's just saying, "Oh, look at him, he looks nice, doesn't he?"
Yeah,
I mean, not in that camp way necessarily.
that is a direct translation of what he said. Yeah, I mean, he's a self-proclaimed Red Sea pirate. He's longing for martyrdom. You know, the last thing he wants is for, but obviously, you know, Western liberal women, they're all gushing over him, and I don't mean verbally. It's just
doesn't it feel quite inappropriate? I remember when the girls ran off to Syria to join ISIS. Shazia Mirza was saying it's because they find these men attractive.
It's like,
how can you find a terrorist attractive?
Well, Ted Bundy had a loyal girlfriend, remember? You know what I mean? Women are they're just any guy like, oh yeah, I like the look of him. It's like he's killed loads of women. Like,
and then if they find out
looking.
he's a killer and he wants to destroy the West, they fancy him even more.
They like it even more, these lefty women. I know. I didn't. It was hard for me because I didn't even know who Timothy Chalamet was either. So because he's not in Carlito's Way or The Godfather or Heat. So obviously I've not watched any of it.
He's in Call Me By Your Name, that very gay film.
I don't watch anything post-90s because you can't trust any of it. If it hasn't got Al Pacino in it, you can't trust it. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I've already said my Bundy line. That's all I've got, really. Women, he wants to end the West, but they still fancy him. What can you do?
Yeah, but he doesn't want to be fancied. That's the point. Like, he doesn't like the fact that he's going viral.
That makes him like him more, because then he's aloof and cool.
Yeah, and if any women are watching, like Nick is a bad boy, but he doesn't want to destroy the West. So that's a nice balance.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So maybe
light and shade.
Maybe we'll get a partner for Nick out of this show. All right, let's move on. We are at the halfway point, but coming up, World War III takes a step closer, a bad night at the BAFTAs for British men, and the UK town demolished before it even began. See you in a moment.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle. These are your first look at Friday's newspapers. The Independent now, and this is perhaps a bit dodgy. Pakistan and Iran getting a bit scary there.
Yes, there's conflict between Pakistan and Iran. So Iran bombed Pakistan, and then Pakistan conducted retaliatory strikes. And Tehran said at least 9 have been killed in Pakistan's airstrike. The victims, 3 women, 4 children, and 2 men.
Yeah.
And what's interesting. We've got civilians, children being killed here, and all the people have been tweeting relentlessly about Israel and how it's horrific that civilians and children are dying. The most they've tweeted about this is oopsie.
Yeah. So why is that? You would have thought that. I mean, this could escalate. It could be really bad. Nick, any thoughts?
Not really. I used up all my thoughts on this last night. The only thing I'll say is that it didn't happen under Trump. The world was so much safer.
Do you actually think when he gets in, and I do think it's going to be a win, it will be a world peace time?
Yeah, I mean, Putin will get back in his hole.
I'm pretty sure there was conflict between a lot of countries under Trump.
Look, it says here, Pakistan fully respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They just bomb them sometimes, but they totally respect them. That's the main thing.
All right, let's move on now to The Times. A gender clinic having some trouble. Leo, as usual.
So a new NHS children's gender clinic has been beset by rows and resignations. This is after the Tavistock clinic closed amongst a huge amount of controversy and scandals, staff quitting and whistleblowing around concerns that children were being railroaded into treatment that could have long-standing life-changing effects but might not be best for them, including puberty blockers and drugs and hormones and surgery as well. And now we've got this replacement gender clinic. However, at least 4 members of the team resigned in late 2023 after disagreements over how children with gender dysphoria should be treated. So this tells you that the science still isn't cut and dried.
No, but it is. I mean, this is the point. We've had the CAS review, which is the biggest report and most rigorous report into paediatric gender medicine. And these guys are saying, well, maybe we should adhere to the CAS recommendations. And there's other activists within these new institutions saying, no, let's not do that. Why don't we just take a strict top-down, follow what CAS says? That would seem the obvious thing to do, right?
Shut it all down. Number one, make it illegal for minors to transition, and then stop covering it in the media, including us. This is my solution, because people are just thinking, oh, I must be trans, because a lot of it's social contagion.
Yeah, but if we don't cover it, it's not social contagion from GB News. I think it's going to be TikTok.
You've got to do the other 2 parts first.
Exactly. Look, I just think it's quite obvious that affirming gender for kids, all of the evidence is saying it's the wrong thing to do. It's a really bad thing.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't let scientists and doctors with oversight sterilise and maim these children, they're going to go at the private sector and get it done there. They've opened this week a private hormone clinic for young people. Became the first UK-based provider to be registered to prescribe cross-sex hormones for patients over 16. So not hugely young, but still very young.
They should put Sean Strickland in charge of it. Have you seen him, the MMA fighter? Have you seen his viral rant?
See that, yeah.
He just said, Well, I can't repeat any of it, actually. But
Has he got a good take on paediatric?
on the trans issue, he's got a very staunch take, yeah.
Oh, OK.
So, yeah.
I think just follow the review. I mean, that was what it was for.
But there's a big industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry now. Do you want
Especially in America, yeah.
Do you want those doctors and those hormone manufacturers to not get their bonuses this year?
That's correct. I do not want that to happen. Absolutely. OK, let's move on now to BAFTA news from The Telegraph. Apparently a bad night for male British actors. Really, Nick?
Well, yeah, obviously no one watches this stuff, but it's male British actors overlooked for BAFTA nomination for first time in nearly 50 years. The last time this happened was when Al Pacino, told you he was good, won leading actor in 1976. And so a few British women have got in there. Rosamund Pike, she's very good. And she's in Reacher, which is a good film. But no men, and it's because British men are the best. But they can't admit that, because it's all woke, so they have to just not give us any awards, because we just win them all otherwise.
Yeah.
But, Nick, is it not just the case that this year it happened to be the case that the best actors were from abroad?
No.
Because, I mean, Leo, the BAFTAs are not just to award British actors.
Yeah.
So why is this a problem? I don't even...
It should be, though.
Is it?
That's what I thought it was.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not. So, I mean, isn't this just a non-story, to borrow Louis Schaefer's phrase?
I demand representation.
Oh, is that what you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, where's the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee making sure that Scottish people are represented? Now, nobody cares about it. It's the BAFTAs. Nobody cared about the BAFTAs even when award ceremonies were important.
Yeah.
Always, the Oscars was the big one, and maybe the Mobos or some of you, as a runner-up. But the BAFTAs, and now, it used to be the chance to see celebrities when they're not in a film.
Yes.
See, oh, look, there he is. He's wearing a suit and he's sitting in a chair. And now you've got social media, so you can see that.
They're just on there posting about Israel all day, and you're like, I don't actually want to hear about that.
I mean, actually, these award ceremonies generally have become hugely unpopular, the Oscars as well. And it's ever since, I think you're right about the woke element. I mean, with the BAFTA started saying you wouldn't be eligible unless you had a certain number of you had to tick diversity boxes in order to be eligible. It doesn't really make any sense with an artist.
Was that the BAFTAs or the Oscars? Or
it was both. It was both.
The Oscars have ludicrous rules now, don't they?
Yeah, they do. But the BAFTAs have it as well. So I don't care if British men aren't getting
like 6
awards.
Native American lighting operators and all this now in the Oscars.
Although they're very good at that in that culture.
The Oscars are being pressured to include Jews in the minorities that are represented in the awards. So it'll be great to see some Jewish representation in Hollywood.
Excellent. Let's move on now to The Telegraph. A hit BBC series is problematic. I hate this word, Leo. Problematic. I hate it.
Yeah, The Traitors is problematic, admits Claudia Winkleman. I think she presents it. And it's all to do with who's being murdered. So The Traitors is like the sort of murder mystery thing. You can win money. It's like, they play the murder mystery weekend. And
it's an old parlour game, right?
It's an old parlour game. So you have faithful players getting murdered by traitors. I don't understand how it works.
Yes.
But apparently... Claudia Winkleman wants conversations about why 4 out of 5 contestants eliminated so far in the show's second series have been female.
Isn't it just that they weren't as good at the game?
Well, how does she know how they identify?
Well, there's that. There is that, Leo. But I was thinking of the idea of looking for sexism where it cannot possibly be the case. Is this not a game where the best players win? Is it not a meritocracy?
Don't they just randomly select?
Great point about meritocracy. And also, why shouldn't women have representation in being murdered? I mean, why can't they're probably just as good as men, right? 4 out of 5 women...
they're not actually murdered in the game.
Right.
It's a fake...
Oh, really?
They
I'm not
play
going to watch
along.
it.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. I
can't believe you said that,
I
Nick.
can't believe it. That's I forgot we were on air for a second.
We are on air.
I was like, that's an off-air joke.
But look, it's not problematic, is it? It's just that in this particular game...
I don't watch the BBC. It's an obscure far-left network. No one watches it anymore. Yeah. It's dying out. This is interesting, though. Winkleman says, if you're a traitor, you're tap dancing all the time. Maybe that's why more of them are women, because they're better at tap dancing.
Yeah.
That's not true. Some of the best tap dancers in the world have been men.
Really?
Yeah, Fred Astaire.
Well, I'm lost. I don't know them.
Right. Well,
I don't understand the world anymore.
OK, let's move on to the Daily Star now. Now, this is a town that's so bad it's being knocked down before anyone can move in. Nick, what's going on?
Yeah. I'm still laughing at myself from the last section. So it's crap UK town. Crap UK town deemed so crap that it's demolished before anyone even moved in. It's Darwin Green in Cambridgeshire. They're going to knock down 36 homes because they had such bad foundations. They've realised the most effective course of action is just to demolish them and rebuild them because it only cost about 20 quid to build anyway, is the implication.
Yeah.
There. So we'll just start again. We'll get it right this time, guys.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like the implication of the headline is that this town was so bad and so rough and so awful, no one wants it to be just demolished.
No.
It's not that. It was an actual safety risk. They found the houses were going to fall down and crush the occupants.
And the people weren't in the houses when they bulldozed them.
Right.
It sort of sounds like, you know, they sent the bulldozers into a town that's already there, although there are some people living in houses there, and they're like, well, what about all this dust? I don't want to breathe in all this dust.
Yeah, that's not
That's
really fair,
essentially what the story hinges on. But it does sort of point to the fact that new builds tend to be not very good. You get, like, old houses that are built in the Georgian era, and they're decent. New builds are small, they've got thin walls, a bit rubbish.
Yeah, they should be building houses like they used to.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
Haunted.
OK, we're going to move on now. The final section is coming up very soon. We're going to be talking about very bad news for OCD sufferers and also the correct way to pronounce Scone. Scone, whatever. See you in 2.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. So the Telegraph now, bad news for OCD sufferers. Leo.
Yeah, so OCD sufferers are 82% more likely to die from anything, according to this study. So that's something to obsess about tonight if you've got OCD. So apparently you're 31% more likely to die from a natural cause and 92% more likely to die from an accident. So I guess people with OCD are probably a bit sicker, a bit more sickly, and they're also a lot more clumsy.
No, but isn't it also saying it's to do with suicide, as they're more likely to kill themselves?
Does that count as an accident?
No, that doesn't count as an accident. So, in fact, yeah, that's what's odd about this, is that any possible category of death seems to affect OCD people.
Right.
Nick?
No, I don't believe it. Unless your OCD quirk is that you like to check if train tracks are straight or something. I don't believe that you're going to...
Could be that.
I'm annoyed about this story. Our producers sometimes put stories in to hurt me personally.
Yes.
Obviously, they know I've got health anxiety. Obviously, I've got OCD. I only have a mild case, but my granddad had pretty bad OCD. He would check the door repeatedly, millions and millions of times. Died at 93 instantly. No problems. You know,
Yeah.
I don't believe this nonsense.
Was he in the
I have
war?
to not believe this. He was in the war, yeah.
Is that how he got it?
No, it was just... I think it's just genetic, because I've got it as well.
Yeah, but Nick, no one's doing this to attack you. It's really not
I'm
that.
attacked, but it's... I don't believe it anyway, luckily, because I think it's nonsense. And the good thing is, they're 10% or 10% less likely to die from cancerous tumours. Probably because they check them constantly. Yeah. That would be my guess. So I don't believe it. And, you know, Ernest Becker talked about it in The Denial of Death, as you'll know, Andrew. And it's just a coping strategy for the existential reality that we live with, the reality of death. You come up with little rituals to just make yourself feel better. And if you don't, you're a bit thick.
There we go. OK, Nick not mincing his words there. We're going to get on to the Telegraph now. We're going to try and end this age-old debate. So, is it Scone? Is it Scone? Where do the Scots stand on this?
So the countdown presenter, Susie Dent, who should know this the most, has given a ruling on how to pronounce the word scone or scone. So she, interestingly, she says it's not going to end the debate anytime soon, because according to etymology, it's a Viking word that's pronounced scoon. So
isn't it a Scottish word?
So no, it's a rye bun, and apparently it was filled with fermented puffin. And because they didn't have
this is all made
jam.
up.
This
so
is made up.
It was a mixture of clotted
Nonsense.
cream and fermented puffin.
This is not true, Leo, but you know, you have the stone of Scone.
Scone.
Isn't Scone a Scottish castle?
The stone of Scone was the first manufacturer of scones.
They were so it should be Scone.
Scone.
No. I'll have a scone and cream.
Yeah.
That's okay, Nick. What would you do?
It says clearly here the Britain it should be said scone, so the north wins, because that's how we say it.
Pronouncing it right, scone.
Yet again, the north wins. Whereas in the US,
what about
it's pronounced,
scones?
That's how the US pronounce it.
And brummies.
They don't understand scones anyway. They'll do them wrong.
Yeah,
turn them into
different scone
donuts.
over there. Scone.
Yeah. So we win. The north wins is what I've taken from this.
So after all this, we don't know is the answer.
We know scone. It's
scone.
Yeah.
No, scone in the UK.
According to Cambridge Dictionary, in Britain, scone should be pronounced scone. It's there.
Yeah, the more you say it, it sounds weird.
It's not in the article.
It all sounds weird to
me
now.
All right, Josh.
So I got really...
I think let's avoid them full stop. They're disgusting things anyway. We're going to move on to this next story now. This is a review on libraries from the government. Nick, you got this.
Really?
Yeah.
We're going to do the Apple woke on. You want to do the libraries one? All right, then. Review finds libraries in England suffer lack of recognition from government. This is a very exciting story to have in the fun section. It's an independent review of libraries for Culture Minister Stephen Parkinson, conducted by Baroness Sanderson. As far as I can see, the underlying issue is underinvestment. They don't have enough money.
Well, that's
of course,
true.
we knew that. Obviously,
libraries are so
nothing
important,
has enough money.
Libraries are so important.
I'm not anti-library. I'm anti-covering this story in the light-hearted section because it's boring.
Well, you can make fun of libraries if you want.
Or in any section, because it's also boring.
You don't believe in books, though?
Well, I don't believe every people are always like, oh, they need more money, we need more money for this. Right. It's like, no, you don't need more money. Everybody's got access to every mote of knowledge that was ever created through their phone.
Yeah, but they don't have access to Drag Queen Story Hour, which is what libraries are doing now.
Or the monkey butt guy.
Right, exactly. So what about those people? They need to be supported as well.
They can go down to the new gender clinic.
OK, let's have a look at the Daily Mail now. Apple has gone woke, apparently.
Yeah, so this is good. Apple goes woke with new option to add pronouns in your iPhone contacts. As users joke, Steve Jobs would die again if he saw this. And
What, is this with the update?
Yes, and I've checked it tonight on my own phone, because I actually got given a phone for Christmas. I've come out of having the flip phone. I've finally got a good iPhone, but... it's got the pronouns in it. You can add pronouns. It's so annoying.
Do you have to, though?
You don't have to, but you know, it's like number, email, pronouns.
What?
And it's like, you know, I don't go on dating apps, but I've heard women put their pronouns. I've seen them on Instagram. They just put their pronouns in. The problem is when you do that, you're already buying into an ideology. Yeah. So by Apple adding this, it's prompting you to follow wokeness.
I think it's useful on dating sites because you can automatically dismiss those individuals.
Yeah, someone said this would stop you answering the phone, but that stuff doesn't come up when they call. That would be good.
Yeah, that would be a good way.
It
sounds like a good way to screen people out. But, you know, this is a religious belief system, effectively, the pronouns, the gender ideology. So are they going to put, like, favourite saint and stuff? They should do stuff like that, favourite Greek deity.
Yeah, favourite child slave that made your phone, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like the pronoun fad is dying out. And I think, a sign that a big lumping corporation like this is, suddenly trying to make it, that's a sign that,
it's going,
already
isn't it?
jumped the shark. I think it's becoming naff now.
Yeah.
And I had to throw my brand new phone into the sea because of this. I was so angry.
Yeah.
Rebecca Vardy.
I'm the cliche of what people say, GB News type. I'm so angry about wokeness, I had to throw a new phone into
You're
the sea.
very dramatic for a heterosexual, I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's have a look at this final one. I think we've just got time. This is a story in the Daily Star about a Mark Williams. He got a 7-point penalty for a practical joke on a snooker referee. What's going on?
That's right. This snooker player, Mark Williams, plays a practical joke on a referee, but it lost him 7 points. He was competing against Houthi Vafe in the World Grand Prix, and the official was moving the balls around on the table, doing his, official stuff with the gloves. And while he wasn't looking, this guy, Mark Williams, grabbed a white ball and stuck it in his pocket.
That's funny.
Joke? And then the guy's like, "Oh my God, where's the white ball gone?" And then turns around, the guy's laughing and stuff. But he said, "No, that's actually a serious point. You touched the ball during a consultation period."
No, that referee was just humiliated and he wanted to get his own back.
The same thing was said to me at the doctor's. You touched the ball during a consultation period. I'm going to have to give you some points.
Well, I think that's fair enough. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I watched the clip. Is he German or something? I mean, I hate to just sort of be xenophobic.
That's a stereotype, isn't it?
I hate to, but yeah, because he
couldn't take a joke, overreacted?
Yeah, exactly. Rules. He said it's in the rules, which is just it's just not an English thing. We don't do that.
I would have thought they want more fun in snooker.
Rebels.
I mean, there's no fun. The only fun I've seen in snooker is when Just Stop Oil
They used
jump
to
on
all
the tables.
smoke, and they were drunk the whole time, and those were the great days of snooker, right? You could smoke inside Alex Higgins and all that.
That's what it should be.
I don't know. I mean, the thing with sport is if you don't stick to the rules,
for God's sake.
End? Where does it end?
It's the Germans and the Scots. You're all sticklers. It's very boring.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for. Thanks ever so much for watching. We're going to have another quick look at Friday's front pages. The Daily Mail is leading with "Don't defy will of the people. Rishi warns Lords." The Telegraph: NATO warns of war with Russia in the next 20 years. Sinister stuff. The Guardian has Netanyahu: "We will not accept a Palestinian state after Gaza war." The Times is leading with a story about teachers locking themselves in classrooms and cupboards because they're scared of the pupils. The iNews has got government orders inquiry into second post office IT scandals. And Daily Star: "Thou shalt have rumpy pumpy," a message from the Pope there. That's all we've got time for, but thanks ever so much to my guests, Leo Kurz and Nick Dixon. Leo's going to be back tomorrow with Lewis and Paul. And by the way, if you're watching us for the 5 a.m. repeat, do stay tuned because now it is time for breakfast.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update. Friday will be another dry and sunny day for most, and showers are becoming much more limited to the far north, but there's still a snow and ice warning in force for many areas of northern and western Scotland. High pressure is centering itself more centrally across the UK overnight tonight, and through Friday that will bring the drier weather. So through the night tonight, it will turn dry for many areas. Plenty of long-lived clear spells, some mist and fog, freezing fog in fact for some areas of Wales and inland England along the Pennines as well. But in the far north of Scotland, we'll see that continued risk of heavy snowfall. The snow will turn a little bit slushier as the night progresses, but there'll be some ice on any untreated roads by the morning. It's going to be another very cold start tomorrow morning, as low as -9 in southern rural areas. But there'll be plenty of sunshine once again, another bright and sunny day for the bulk of the UK. We've got a bit more of a westerly wind, so it will be a bit breezier on the coast, but that does mean that the temperatures will be a little bit higher than recent days, 6 or 7 degrees in the southwest, but still a fairly gloomy day with plenty more snow showers to come in the northwest. A very unsettled day on Saturday for north and western areas, with the winds picking up as we see a marked change in our weather for the weekend. Some quite heavy rainfall to come for parts of Northern Ireland and very many northwestern areas of the UK. And as the temperatures start to climb through the weekend, the snow will start to melt across much of Scotland, so that could bring some flooding issues. See you later.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Put your mouth. OK, here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock Monday to Thursday on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Well, the Prime Minister insists that the Conservative Party is united, all is going well, and that we will stop the votes, and yet latest polling suggests they're in bigger trouble than I've ever seen them. I'm going to ask today, is the Conservative Party in terminal decline? We then go to South Wales, to Tata Steel, where inevitably we will cease to be primary steel producers in Britain as a cost of going green. Is it really worth it? And joining me on Talking Pints, my campmate from the jungle, award-winning actress Danielle Harold. But before all of that, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you and good evening to you. Well, the top story from the GB Newsroom tonight. The Prime Minister is calling on the House of Lords now to do what he says is the right thing and pass his Rwanda bill. Rishi Sunak, who says he's determined to control the UK's borders, was speaking to officials at Gatwick Airport this afternoon to highlight, he said, the importance of border security. Well, the third reading of the Rwanda bill passed through the Commons unamended last night with a majority of 44. Dozens of Conservatives had threatened to rebel, but in the end, only 11 voted against. Mr Sunak says peers must now support the legislation as an urgent national priority. And the Prime Minister's plan to stop the boats comes as the Home Office confirmed today 358 people were intercepted trying to cross the English Channel yesterday in 8 small boats. That means 621 people have arrived in the UK so far this year, despite more than 2 weeks of poor weather. The ASLEF Train Union has announced that drivers will go on strike for 5 days next month. LNER drivers will walk out from February the 5th in their long-running dispute over pay. The latest strike action is in addition to a series of walkouts against train operators across England.